I'm Thea, and today we are making a video about gender expression and other fun, ridiculously complicated things. My gender, I'm gonna say female, that's mostly accurate, and sexual orientation, I go by bi, but it's always a very complicated thing, and lately I've been leaning more towards panromantic homosexual, which means that I am capable of falling in love with pretty much anyone, but I'm really only interested in doing the do with peoples who have vaginas. So, sorry, I know it's rather selective, but there it is. My gender expression, I've kind of stopped trying to label it. I used to go by Futch, which for those of you who are not up on the insane and ever-increasing dictionary of lesbian fashion terms, means a combination of femme and butch style. But on any given day, I might be wearing a flannel and a snapback, and the next I might be wearing neon colors and enough makeup for a drag queen. I like different styles from different eras, different walks of life. I like being androgynous sometimes. This is one of my more androgynous days, at least I think so. Sometimes seems my idea of androgynous doesn't really coincide with what the rest of the world considers it to be, but I will pretty much wear anything if it makes me feel good and makes me feel comfortable. The one thing I think I tend to stay away from is kind of traditional feminine styles, if that makes any sense. So I'm not much for, like floral prints and pretty jewelry and that kind of things. If I'm wearing something that's feminine, I like it to be big and bold and dramatic. So, like I said, things that a drag queen might wear. I'm a big fan of the bio queen look, which for those of you who might not know is a cisgender woman who imitates the makeup and fashion of a drag queen, and I think that stuff is really cool. Yes and no. It did more so in the past than it does now. When I first realized that I was queer, I do what every queer kid in this day and age does. I went on YouTube and I looked up all of the channels that I could find about bisexual and lesbian and queer and pan women, and I tried to see what I could learn from them and from their experiences, and I got super into this whole world of butch women that I had never really known existed before. And I got super into this new style that I had never seen before, and I thought it was so cool and interesting and brave, and so I decided to try it out for myself, and it made me feel so much more comfortable in my own skin, and that masculinity really does give you a sense of power sometimes, which I know might sound a little strange and anti-feminist, but that's not what I mean. It's just that, obviously our society is much more accepting and willing to be helpful for men than it is for women, and having sort of that power. People kind of look at you differently when you're dressed like a man, and they treat you differently, and it does make you feel a lot more confident in and of yourself. And so I really got into that style and that way of expressing myself. And as time went on, I continued dressing that way because I still liked it, but also because I felt it really represented me as a queer woman, and I was terrified of losing this identity as a bisexual and a queer woman that I had developed after being scared of it for so long. And I felt like dressing feminine made me less gay and misrepresented who I was, and I was really afraid of reverting back to that straight identity that I had been living with for so long, and I was afraid of losing who I had become if I stopped dressing in a way that was stereotypically gay. And I still did enjoy dressing in a butch way, and I still do sometimes, but as time went on and I explored just kind of more fashion in general and style and experimented with different things, I got more comfortable with expressing a feminine side of myself or an androgynous side of myself that combined the two. And so in that way, yes, my sexuality did influence my style a lot back when I was still figuring out what all of that was. And as for gender, I said at the beginning of the video that I'm good with agreeing that with feminine pronouns and being considered a woman, and I am, but There are days when I feel not exactly transgender. I've never claimed to be transgender, and I wouldn't want to take away from the experience of my friends and just people in general who actually are trans. But there are days when I feel I believe the term that's popular now is masculine of center. On occasion, if I'm wearing my boy clothes, baggy jeans and a snapback and a flannel shirt. I only have one pair of baggy jeans and I love them so much. I have to go get more, but it's so impossible to find ones that fit me. Anyway, getting back on track. Sometimes when I am dressed in my boy clothes, I do get mistaken for a boy. And on occasion this annoys me, but sometimes, people, they'll call me sir, or, refer to me as a guy, and, it makes me feel really proud, and, I'm really comfortable with being treated like a man, and addressed as a man, and people thinking I'm a man. And, that kind of freaked me out for a little while. I was like, am I gender fluid, gender queer, what does all this mean? And I thought about it for a while, and I'm like, no, I've never actually felt quite like a man, but I do strongly identify with, I guess, I have masculine energy sometimes, and in that way, I think, yes, my gender does influence my gender expression a lot. Ooh, honey, yes. Well, as for the way people reacted, the biggest reaction I got, well, first, the way my parents reacted when I first started dressing butch. My mom was pretty cool with it. She understood. I'd recently come out to my parents. My mom totally understood why I might want to experiment with this, or maybe why I felt more comfortable in this identity. It was a little bit more difficult for my father. It kind of threw him for a loop, and I don't think he really understood my reasoning behind it. And so for him, adjusting to that new style of mine of wanting to look like a boy sometimes and dress like a boy was confusing for him, and he didn't really get it. And for my friends, they were very accepting of my new butch fashion for the same reason, because they understood, just coming out, getting comfortable with this new identity. It was something that I wanted to try. And it started being weird for them when I started getting comfortable with my feminine side again. And some days, I'd turn up in a skirt, and they're like, oh my god, Thea, are you actually wearing a skirt? What is this? And it was a little bit weird for me because, I was still uncomfortable with being anything but a super butch, manly stud. And it did make me a little bit uncomfortable, getting used to being a little bit feminine sometimes. And so it threw my friends a little bit, I think, too, when I started, kind of experimenting with that side of my fashion sense again. And as for people making assumptions, well, as I mentioned, people do sometimes mistake me for a boy, but that's to be expected. If you're wearing a snapback and a flannel shirt, your usual cis-het normative people are gonna look at you from behind and think, oh, boy. And that usually doesn't bother me too much. And as for people making assumptions about my sexuality, normally I do not get strangers coming up to me and asking me, what my sexuality is based on the way I dress. They see me across the street or in a crowded room. But there was this one time, I was at my church youth group. I used to be a Catholic. I am now lapsed considerably. And I was at a youth group meeting, and we were in the basement hanging out before the meeting got started, and all of the seats around where my friends normally sat were taken, so I had to sit across the room by myself. And I ended up sitting next to these girls I didn't know. I didn't know their names, I'd never spoken to them before, but I just took an open chair. And I'm sitting there minding my own business, and the girl next to me taps me on the shoulder, and she says, "Excuse me, but do you like girls?" And I was, of course, a little taken aback, because this is not normally a question you ask someone you have never spoken to before in your life. So I just said, yeah, sometimes. And she said, okay, thanks, and never spoke to me ever again for the duration of the year. So that was a little strange. And I was dressed butch that day, so I think it's safe to say that, yeah, people make assumptions about my sexuality based on the way that I dress, even if they don't come to me about it and ask me. But I mean, that's to be expected. It's the way society as of yet works, and we have not quite gotten to breaking down those stereotypes yet that lead people to assume those things. So yeah, I assume people do make assumptions. if you've heard it once, you've heard it a million times, but just be yourself. You know, you have one life to live, and what is the point of living it to make other people happy or other people comfortable? You know, if you are not enjoying your life and happy with yourself and feel like you are living a happy, fulfilling life. So be yourself. Dress however the hell you want. If you want to be super butch and always wear basketball shorts and flannels, you do that. If you want to run around in a princess dress, go do that. If you want to wear a snapback with your princess dress, do that too. Whatever makes you feel comfortable, go for it. It's your life, and you have to do what makes you feel happy and makes you feel like the best version of yourself. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you got some insight and maybe found it helpful, made you feel more comfortable. You know, if you're having questions about your own sexuality, gender identity, gender expression, all three, a combination, leave comments and saying what you think. Give us a like and subscribe, and hope to see you soon. Bye!